Okay, let's say you want to design an airplane like the Wright brothers did for the first time. How do you design an airplane? What are the components of an airplane? The main component, of course, are wings and the propelling mechanism. We used to have propellers, then came the jet turbines, and so on. You can have different mechanisms for propulsion. So let's say there is a way of propelling it forward. Then how does the airplane fly? Let me draw a cartoon of an airplane. So you have a wing like that. In modern airplanes, you have a turbine under the wing. Okay, which propels the airplane forward. And due to this, because of the shape of the wing, the airplane gets a lift force. How does it get lifted? If I take a cross section of this wing, it looks from the side view, it looks like this. This is the cross section of this wing here. Now what is special about this cross section? You would have heard of airfoil or aerofoil. So from the Bernoulli's equation, we obtain this result that if there is a flow over some object like this, and if there is some asymmetry in the shape with respect to the flow, the upside and the bottom side, these two surfaces, if they are asymmetric with respect to the flow direction, then there is a net force that acts on this object in the vertical direction. Okay, so this principle can be used to generate lift. In this particular case, if the airfoil is tilted like this, okay, such that you create an asymmetry with respect to the flow direction, then you get an upward lift up to some angle, and after that there is something called stall that happens. So it is not beneficial for lift. Therefore there is some limit to the angle up to which you can tilt this airfoil and get a lift. So this is what is used, but how to determine the exact shape, the length, the curvature of the airfoil, and so on, so that you can optimize your design. You can optimize the size of the wing, shape of the airfoil, the material that you are going to use, and so on. So there are a few ways of doing this. One direct way is to build such a big wing and then do experiments with it. So have a large wing like this, put it in a wind tunnel where you can control the amount of flow of air. Put the wing like this. Okay, just the wing you can put. If you just want to know how much lift will be generated by this wing, and have a controlled flow of air like this, which you expect in a real condition, and then there will be a flow something like this. Either you can visualize this flow using some method, some visualization method, such as if you put some smoke here, if you put some smoke, that will travel over the wings like that, and you can see how the flow is happening. Also you have to put force sensors on this rod which can measure how much torque is being applied on this rod. From that you can calculate the drag force on the wing, and also you have to apply a pressure sensor at the bottom somewhere, or some kind of force sensor, which can tell you how much lift is being generated, how much vertical force is being applied on this rod by this wing. So like this you can get all these parameters, lift and drag parameters for this wing. Now this facility has to be very large to accommodate the wing, and if you want to do this for the entire airplane, it has to be really large. Maybe in some places there may be such facilities, but generally people don't do that. People use something called non-dimensionality, non-dimensional equations, and a principle which is called dynamic similarity. So there is something called similarity which you can use, specifically dynamic similarity, which is related to dimensional analysis. And within dimensional analysis, non-dimensional relationships or non-dimensional equations or non-dimensional numbers. So using these, what you can do is you can reduce your experimental costs. So the idea is that you can build a smaller facility, a smaller wind tunnel. This facility, which allows controlled flow of air and all these uh, tracers and pressure measurements and all of these things combined, that is known as a wind tunnel facility. You can create a small wind tunnel, let's say 1/10 the size of the original wind tunnel, which can fit an entire airplane or something like that, or entire wing. You can scale it down to 1/10 or 1/20th or something like that, depending upon what dynamic similarity allows, what equations allow, and what materials you have at your disposal. So we'll discuss all these things later on, but right now I'm just telling you how beneficial it is. So you can build a smaller wind tunnel like this. You can build a smaller model of this wing. Okay. Material does not matter for this that much. But yeah, we have to see whether that also affects the flow. Okay. The roughness, the smoothness of the wing surface and all that have to be scaled down to this size. Now this is the model. You can observe the flow over this model, but you have to keep a few things in mind that we'll discuss later on, so that these two dynamics are similar. So that is known as dynamic similarity. And when does dynamic similarity hold? This, whatever we are doing here, we are scaling everything down by the same amount. All the dimensions we have scaled down by the same amount. This is just geometrical similarity. But if you want the flow dynamics to be similar in both the cases, you have to keep few things in mind. You have to keep the properties of the medium here. You have to keep the properties of this fluid medium here and the fluid medium in this model wind tunnel in such proportions so that the dynamic similarity holds good. Okay. Now let us go into some theory and see how you can achieve this dynamical similarity. What we'll do is we will non-dimensionalize the Navier-Stokes equations. So this is known as non-dimensionalization of equations, of the governing equations. It need not be for only Navier-Stokes equations, it can be for any equation. For example, if you have a building, if you want to see how the structure behaves under earthquake, you can build a smaller building and impose some forcing on it similar to earthquake and see how the model behaves, and then you can apply, and then you can calculate the actual forces and the actual deformation of the real building that you are designing. So how we non-dimensionalize the equations, we will see now. Let us first write down the dimensional equations. What do we mean by dimensional equations? What is a dimension, first of all? So as you might have studied this, mass, length, time, and there are other dimensions, okay, physical dimensions. Here there are temperature and so on, but here for incompressible isothermal flows, we will generally be dealing with only these three dimensions: mass, length, and time. Okay, if more dimensions come up, we'll introduce them later on, but in general in this course we'll be using only these three. These are the dimensions, and when we write, let's say, del dot V equal to 0, which is the continuity equation for an incompressible flow, what are the dimensions of velocity? You can see that del has the dimension 1 by length, okay, because it is dou by dou x, dou by dou y, and so on. And velocity has dimensions length by time. So the dimension of the left hand side is 1 by time. Okay, so what we are saying here is del dot V is equal to 0, and this 0 has dimensions 1 by time. Alright, in an equation, the dimensions of all the terms have to be the same. Only then it is dynamically consistent equation. So if there is an equation, you can verify that all the terms have the same dimensions. Similarly, if we write Navier-Stokes equations, rho, let's say for the x direction, dou u by dou t, u dou u by dou x, plus v dou u by dou y equal to minus dou p by dou x, del square u dou x square, dou 2u by dou y square. And we are neglecting any other force such as electromagnetic force, gravitational force in x direction, and so on. We have neglected. Now you can observe the dimensions of each term. Let's see what is the dimension of rho, that is kg per meter cube. So that is mass L cube, mass by L cube, dou u by dou t. Dou by dou t is 1 by time, and velocity is length by time. So L t to the power minus 2, that is the dimension. The notation that is generally used is like this: Lt minus 2. So the dimension of this entire term, rho dou u by dou t, that is m L minus 2 t minus 2. Okay, this is the dimension of one of these terms, rho dou u by dou t. Now what is the dimension of rho u dou u by dou x, which is the second term here? Let us see the dimension of this term. It should match the dimension of dou u by dou t term. Only then this equation is dimensionally consistent. What is the dimension of u? That is L by t, meter per second or some other unit, but it is length by time. What about dou by dou x? That is 1 by length. And what about u? That is L by t. So these two L cancel out. You get L by t square, which is same as this one. So you know that the dimension for rho u dou u by dou x is also ml minus 2 t minus 2. Similarly for v dou u by dou y, because we have just changed the direction of velocity here, now it has become y direction velocity, and here instead of x this is y, but the dimensions are same for all these terms. So the dimension for this term v dou u by dou y will also be same as that for this term u dou u by dou x. So now we are sure that the dimensions for all the terms on the left hand side are same, ml minus 2 t minus 2. Now what is the dimension of this term? Minus dou p by dou x. Dou by dou x 1 by L. What is pressure? Pressure is force per unit area. We'll write the dimensions for force. Let us write for area first. 1 by L minus L by 1 by L square, that is area. Force per unit area, so it is 1 by area. So we have written 1 by L square. Now the dimension for force. What is force? Force can be written as mass times acceleration. Mass has units of m, dimension m. Mass times acceleration. Acceleration, meter per second square is one of the units which has dimensions L by t square. Alright, 1L cancels out. You get ml minus 2 t minus 2, which is same as what we got on the left hand side. This one and this one and this one all are same. Now we can also verify for this term mu dou to u by dou x square. If we verify for this term will be clear. If we verify for that term, this term is clear because this is just dou to u by dou y square. We change x by y. Dimensions are same for both x and y. So let us verify for mu dou to u by dou x square. What are the dimensions of mu? We have written that in one of the classes, Pascal second. If you don't remember the dimension for mu, you can write this equation. Stress is equal to mu times du by dy, and then from here stress, you know, force per unit area, du by dy dimensions, you know, you can calculate the dimension for mu. All right, so we know that mu has a unit of Pascal second which has dimensions. So Pascal is force per unit area again, so 1 by time for per second, Pascal second, that gives t time for second. Then Pascal force per unit area gives you L square, force gives you ml by t square. This is viscosity. Now let us write it for dou to u by dou x square. Dou to u by dou x square, so 1 by x square gives you 1 by L square, and u, by the way, what are the units of dou to u by dou x square. Dou 2u by dou x square can be written as dou u by dou x. So first you have to take derivative with this dou by dou x, and then again a derivative with respect to x. So you get 2x, 2 distance units in the denominator. Therefore we write 1 by L square here. All right. And then you have u, which is L by t. Now 1L cancels out from here, 1t cancels out from here, again another L cancels out from here. You get m L minus 2 t minus 2. All right. So we see that all the terms have the same dimensions, ml minus 2 t minus 2. Okay, all the terms that we have seen here. So we have talked about dimensions. Now let us non-dimensionalize this equation. Let us write the Navier-Stokes equations again in x direction. Okay. Now, what is meant by non-dimensionalization? We want to rearrange these terms. We want to define some new terms which are non-dimensional, and we want to rearrange them such that every term has no dimension. Okay, this may sound weird, but let us try this. Let us take some characteristic scales. What we mean by characteristic scales? For example, if we have a flow past a sphere or flow past an airfoil, there is some characteristic flow velocity here, either the maximum velocity of this flow or the inlet velocity that we are giving, okay, or the velocity far from the sphere here, or the maximum velocity over the sphere, or the velocity at any other point. Okay, this can be a characteristic velocity of that flow. We are free to define that, but there can be some physically meaningful characteristic velocity or characteristic scales as well. So let us choose some characteristic scale for velocity, capital U, and define a dimensionless velocity, U star. So we'll say that capital U times U star, this is equal to U, which is our dimensional velocity. U star is dimensionless velocity, and capital U is also dimensional. It has dimensions same as small u. So that's why this equation is dimensionally consistent. Both the terms on the left and right have the same dimensions. Now similarly, we will say that small v, now in vertical direction, the characteristic velocity, you may define it as something else, or we can have the same scale. So for this example, we will take the same velocity scale in the vertical direction as well and define a new dimensionless velocity, v star. Similarly, for all the other variables, we will do the same thing. We can define characteristic density, characteristic viscosity, but because in this case we are assuming that density and viscosities are constant, so we don't need to do that. We'll see that they automatically go away from here. They get absorbed in some terms which are, and these variables make those terms dimensionless automatically. So we'll see it later on. But other variables such as time, x and y, and pressure, we still have to make them, we still have to define dimensionless variables corresponding to them. We still have to define dimensionless variables corresponding to them. So for time, we'll define something, some scale. For x, we will define some scale. So let us assume that there is some characteristic length. It can be length of the wing, it can be length of the width of the wing, or height of the wing, anything like that, which is characteristic to this flow. If it is flow past a sphere, the characteristic scale can be the diameter of the sphere or the radius of the sphere. All right. How to define characteristic scales, we will see that later on. How to identify characteristic scales, we will see that later on. For now, let us assume that it is L, and we have x star here, which is dimensionless coordinate length in the x direction. Similarly, we can non-dimensionalize y. We can define a dimensionless y star, and let us assume that the characteristic scale in the y direction is also L. The length scale is L. Now for time, either we can have some t star, or we can just make use of these characteristic scales L and U to define a scale for time. So this will be L by U, has units of time, and t star is a dimensionless time.